and now move into the collections module. So what I want to do with the collections module is just to give you an overview of the notes that you're going to get on a weekly basis and just a short synopsis of each section. So you can do that. So share. So now hopefully you can see the collections module page there. Um, so now. So you saw the last day anyway. So it's 11 modules. So what we're going to do is um so the first set of notes is an overview. Excuse my voice is gone. So starting on collections. So it's going to give you an overview of the collections. Now, I hope. Say, well, look, sure, that's what we're doing all day long, every day, all day, nobody's going to teach me how to do collections. Look, all I will ask you is that you approach this subject with an open mind. That's number one. And just because you do something and you've always done it this way doesn't mean it's right or it's the best way to do it. So, you know, to arrive into the course and say, okay, well, look, and the very fact that you're all working in credit control and you're successful and you're here and you want to progress your careers, I'm going to give you credit for intelligence. You're obviously doing something and you're doing something right. What I want to give you, I suppose, is a new and different way of looking at things. That's what I want to do. And look, some of it will work and some of it won't. And that's fine. All I will say is take the bits that will work for you and incorporate them into what you do and leave the bits that won't work. So that's what I'm doing. So and sometimes, I can be accused of stating the blindingly obvious. And I'll make no apologies for that because often, and I've explained this to people in the past as well, you know, credit control, in my view, credit control resides in a place somewhere between what should happen and what does happen. If you think about so it's all right, oh, we should be doing this. Yet we know we should be doing this. The reality is we're not doing it. And that's what happens. And that's why there's a need for credit control. Because if everything happened that they should and everybody paid when they should and all the bills were correct going out and all the payment terms were signed off and enforced and everybody paid electronically on the seventh day after invoice, then there would be no need for credit control. The reality is there is a need for credit control and there always will be. And anybody who tells you, oh yeah, we have voice bots now who are going to take over the world of collections, uh, nonsense. Yes, we have voice bots and Dara will show you those later on. Um, so yes, we have voice bots. They are not going to take over. They are going to act as your assistants. You will still have to manage the credit function and all that kind of stuff. So, and just that we're absolutely clear, you know, what collections is all about is three words, getting the money. Okay? It's not about getting excuses. It's not about making calls. It's not about hassling people, annoying people, stalking people, or whatever the case may be. That's not the job. The job is get the money. Okay, so just be very clear, and that's what we're going to. And focus is a word you're going to hear if you've ever been on a course with me or you've ever listened to me talking about anything. My big thing is focus. You get what you focus on, and what we just have to make absolutely sure is that we are focusing on the right things and we're focusing on the things that we want. So starting on collections is just an overview of the whole function and to get you razor sharp focused on the money. So that is that. Um, so I hope that's a good starting point. And look for learning points and look for things that you can incorporate and think, oh yeah, yeah, I'll give that a go. And even if you think, oh, I'm not sure about that, just try it. What's the worst that can happen? So it will give you some pointers on staying focused and getting the money. Communications. To me, credit control and collections is all about communications. That's what it's about. You're communicating a message to people. And my definition of communications, if you haven't heard it before, my definition of communications is that communications is the result it achieves. So it's not about how nicely you speak or how well you communicate or what big words you use. Communications is the result it achieves. So taking that to its conclusion, if I ring you looking for money and I do not get the money, then I did not communicate. Yeah, I know, isn't that tough? So what I want you to become is great communicators. And in order to become great communicators, we have to understand. So not all people are the same, which makes the whole world far more interesting. So people are different. People have different ways of processing information. People have different ways of communicating information. And when you understand individuals, and this is number three, understanding customers. So once you understand their processing styles, once you understand their communications, the way they do it, suddenly it's like somebody switches on a light bulb. You go, ah, yeah, yeah. He's not an obnoxious pig. He's just, that's just the way, digital people react. And because I'm visual or I'm auditory or I'm different, and I hope it'll give you an insight into, um, different types of people and how to communicate with them. So it's not a one size fits all. That's not what it's about. It's about understanding and it's about seeing all the different people and how we communicate with them as well. So that is to me a vital component in the situation because you have to interact with all sorts of different types of people and by being able to recognize them for the type of people they are accepting who they are, that's fine. So in my world there is no right and wrong. To me, I've explained this before. To me and how I stayed sane through it all, I saw credit control and collections as a game. All right, it's a game. So let's go to play on Monday morning. Is that okay? So here's the game. The game is I'm being paid to get the money. Yeah? The game is they are being paid to keep the money. So rather than getting upset and annoyed with people because they don't pay, no, that's their job. Their role in the game is to keep the money for as long as they can. My role in the game is to get paid as quick as I can. So now, with those two opposing priorities, let the game begin. And let's see who wins. And rather than getting annoyed with somebody who hasn't paid us for 6 months and going, oh, he hasn't paid for 6 months, this deadbeat, brat, what's he getting away with? And then you get on the phone and you start giving out, and then it all goes pear-shaped. No, I approach that call with the utmost of respect because this guy is good at playing the game. And this guy has been getting away with it for the last 6 months. And fair play to you, you are a worthy adversary. So now bring it on and let's get the money. And I think if you approach it in that kind of a way, that rather than seeing it as a conflict and a battle, we see it as a game. And look, they got the stuff they have to pay, and I know we're going to talk about negotiations later on. There's sometimes we don't negotiate, and we won't negotiate about payment. You got the stuff you have to pay. We provided the service you have to pay. End of. It's just a matter of working out how. So that's what it's all about. The other thing that I'd say at the outset, because this is the one quote that I've uh, been making for a number of years, and it's the one that's given back to me most when I meet people 10 years later. And they say, oh, Jack, I was at a training course that you gave, and you said this, and I've never forgotten it. And the line that I have said that most people have never forgotten, and hopefully you won't either, it's this: people pay people they like. And this vision of credit controllers being nasty debt collectors with their knuckles dragged along the ground or whatever, that is not, the image that works in the real world. So people pay people they like. And so our mission shifts now. So yes, and it shifts that I want my customers. Now, I don't want to be their best friend, and when I say me, I mean you. You don't want to be their best friends. That's not really what it's all about. Look, if they, get on with you, respect you, like you, and the nicer you are to people, the nicer they are back. That's what I have found. That, the people tend to react to what they find. So if you're reasonable with people, they'll be reasonable back. If you're unreasonable, they'll be unreasonable. That's just how it works. And I did, and I haven't admitted it, but I have. I spent about 3 years of my life on the dark side, on accounts payable. I was young and I needed beer money. Anyway, that was that. So I started in credit control. I did 3 years on the dark side, and then I came back straight into it. And I found it was a very important learning curve because sitting in the AP office. There was some people that I just went through walls to make sure they got paid, and there was other people I delighted in delaying payment for. And the common denominator between them all was whether I liked them or not. And the people I liked, I did everything I could to help them. And the people I didn't like, I loved when I got a wrong invoice, I just, that's another month's credit now at least. Yeah, brilliant. So that's that. So I want you to be the person that they like. And if you're going to work every day and talking to people you like, it just makes life so much better as well. And the reason I want them to like me, and just never forget this, is because that will get me the money quicker. So that's what it's all about. It's not about a popularity contest. And, particularly when we get into credit management, yeah, you can see maybe it's not a popularity contest. It's about doing things, getting it right, and getting paid. So understanding customers, we have a whole section on that I hope you find interesting as well. Um, Dealing with sales and other departments. I told you at the outset, you know, I suppose there's a notion of sales and credit control fighting. I don't know. Did you have that in your organization? Yeah, I can see a lot of people nodding now, going, "Yeah, the sales and credit, old enemies and old rivals." Um, and that will never change. Okay, so just in case you think you're odd or there's something wrong with you, if you're not fighting with everybody, then you're not doing your job properly. And salespeople are wonderful. The only thing is they're as thick as two short planks. They have no clue about admin, invoicing, finance, numbers. They're just absolutely clueless. And what's worse, they care less. That's the whole point of sales. All sales want to do is make more sales, hit their targets, get their bonuses. That's the only thing on their minds. So, and good salespeople are the most selfish people in the world. They only think about themselves, they only care about themselves, and it's the next sale and the next sale and the next sale. And any barriers to that is just abhorrent to them. So that's fine. And now we know the shape of the animal, and we'll go through it in great detail here. Now, how do we make them work with us? Are you with me? And that's the challenge. So again, back to if I'm fighting with them, then there's a battle going on. And look, I've heard credit departments being described as the sales prevention department and the anti-sales squad or whatever it happens to be. And to me, nothing could be further from the truth. Nothing could be further from the truth. Because as we go through the introduction, you know, why do we give credit in the first place? And to me, the only reason to give credit is if it helps us to sell more. That's why we give credit. to increase our sales. So credit is not an anti-sales function. Credit is a pro-sales function. We're enabling sales and we're enabling people to do business with us in an easy manner to grow our business. That's why we're here. Now, the thing about it is what we're concerned with, and when I say about shifting priorities, where I want to shift your priority is into focusing on profitable sales. And that's one of the big differences between salespeople and credit people. Salespeople see sales, and if they get rewards on the basis of orders they bring into the business, then they don't care if you've never been paid for them because it's nothing to do with them. That's your problem. Yeah. So on that basis, the salespeople are focusing on getting sales, whereas as a credit professional, we are concerned with profitable sales. And there's a huge difference between those two. So it's not just about selling, it's about selling where we have a sporting chance of getting paid. So we need to work very closely, and I worked very closely with salespeople, and so will you if you're going to be successful. And I think one of the suggested extracurricular activities of the course is to see if you can get out with a salesperson sometime and see what happens in the real world to increase your understanding of the commercial market. Because if we're going to be successful in our careers, we have to be commercially minded as well. So look, it's about growing sales intelligently in an area where, we're not exposing the company to unacceptable risk. And that's really what the whole thing is about. So it's working with sales. And I'm talking other departments as well. So marketing departments, like marketing, oh, they know everything and they haven't a clue when it comes to, yes, they can set up promotions and they can set up offers and they can do all these coupons. How that's actually administered and how it works in the real world, they are so that world is so alien to them that they need somebody like me to decide, okay, if you want to do a promotion, great. Come and talk to me and I'll tell you how we're going to set it up internally so that everything runs smoothly. So I want you to make sure that you are the go-to person in the business. You are the person who, and you know everything in the business. You know everything that's moving. You know every problem that exists within your business. Like you are the most important person in that business, whether you realize it or not. Because anything that goes wrong anywhere from the time they place the order, delivery, picking, whatever it is, that problem will manifest on your desk in the form of a customer saying, I am not paying you because. So and if they're serious about customer service and if they care about their customers, they need to be talking to the credit control people because we're the guys who know and we have no vested interest. The salespeople, the sky is a different color in their world. They think everybody's wonderful and everybody's great until they're not. And then that's your problem. So look, there's a whole module on that, how we're going to deal with them. And I'll give you the punchline here today in terms of dealing with sales in other departments. And not only is it a punchline to this, it's also something that you can widen out to your friends, family, and everybody else. Um, do you want to know how to get somebody to do something that you want them to do? Wouldn't that be great? And then people who are good at collections, that's what they're doing all day long. So, if it works for them, it works for everybody else. Okay, listen to this very carefully. In order to get anybody to do anything, here's what you have to do first. You have to show them how they will be better off as a result of doing it. So if I can show you how you will be better off by doing this, you will do it willingly. If I show you how I'll be better off, you don't care. Because one of the human universals is everybody cares about themselves. Yeah. And nobody cares about you. Sorry to burst your bubble first thing on a Saturday morning. So, and by recognizing that rather than getting into a depression, that is fantastic. That is fantastic. So Joe, you're my salesperson. You want to make sales, and I want you to make sales. So Joe, make sure that you bring back the new account application form in full because that's what's needed in order for me to open the account so you can make sales. If you bring in a wrong one to me, I'm going to send it back, and that's going to impact on you. Do you know what I mean? Whereas if deck is given out that they're not filling out the forms correctly, your man's always given out, don't mind him. Um, no, it's not me, it's you. You know, I can't open this account for you, and I want to open the account for you. And I have to have all the boxes filled in. And if you do that, I'll do my bit. If you don't do that, I can't. So it's in your interest to get the account form filled out, not mine. I don't care if it's open or not. I get the same money at the end of the month. And by communicating in that way to a salesperson, now you've got them. Yeah. So that's the kind of stuff. So just remember, nobody cares about you. Um, Written communications, that's another module, and that deals with emails, it deals with letters, it deals with text messaging. WhatsApp is becoming one of the great collection tools, particularly when we're dealing with consumers or, sole traders or smaller businesses, because people read their WhatsApps. People get email overload now at this stage, and having a AI bot sending out a million emails, like while it might sound clever, if none of them get read, it's probably not a good use of time. So how we write, what words we use, how we frame it, how we, that's all in the written communications module that I think is great. Then we need to get out because, we need to understand that not everything is perfect in the world. And you're doing a diploma in credit management. So people get confused between liquidators, receivers, examiners, all the new Scarp, and all that kind of stuff. So again, because I want you to be the experts, we have a whole section explaining and explaining from a credit perspective. So if a receiver is appointed, what do you do? If a liquidator is appointed, what are the implications of that? And what can you do about it when it happens? Okay, like a lot of people say, oh, they're in receivership, close the account and we'll walk away. And that's the worst thing you can do. Same liquidation. There are ways and means of getting through it and getting around it. And you need to understand the whole insolvency model and what it means and what it says. And I mentioned, creditors, meetings and all that kind of stuff. So we want you to to look, have an overview of knowledge of when companies go bang, what can you do about it? Which is fine. Overdue accounts. That's the whole part of it. So look, on my ledger and on your ledger, there are only two types of balance. There is a balance that's not due yet, and then there's the balance that's overdue. There's no gray area. And I don't even go along with 1 month, 2 month, 3 month, 4 months, 6 months, 12 months, 18 months. No, no, it's either not due or it's overdue. End of. Let's not go down this million aging route. No, it's either not paid or it should be paid. So we'll go through in terms of how we deal with them on a one-on-one basis. And look, we focus on the big amounts because that's what's going to hit our targets at the end of the month. And then we need to have a process to deal with all the smaller accounts. Um, so that is what we're going to do with it as well. Um, then we have a module on law and the legal process. So look, even if all the good things we teach you about credit control and collections fails to materialize. So and you will come across some geniuses. I'm not paying you. That's it. Go away. Um, so on that basis, we need to understand the legal process. And we do, and also escalation as well. So maybe overdue accounts. Like the dealing with sorry, I'm getting confused here. Just bear with me 1 minute. I've forgotten my timings. Um, Let me go back here. I've forgotten my timings, which is not like me. Where was my connection? Um, So sorry, Katrina, can you help me here? In terms of timings, am I on it? Is the break at a quarter past 11?
Break is at 11:15. Yeah.
That's all right. No, it's just scheduled 11. I couldn't remember it was 11 or a quarter past. So
Yep.
good, 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 because I need the 15 minutes. So what do you do? Like, how do you make a decision to go down the legal road? What's the steps involved in going down the legal road? What's the quickest way of doing it? Because getting outside help is not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of strength. And getting collection agents involved, if you're wasting your time, get somebody else to do it. If somebody's not responding to your letters, your calls, your contacts, your everything else, and they're stonewalling you, well, then what I'm doing is a waste of time. So now I need to do something else. And the legal process is there for a reason. And if it's used intelligently, now, if it's used stupidly, where we hand over any account over 60 days to solicitors, that's going to end up costing you a fortune, creating a mountain of work, and it's just not going to have the desired results, and you'll end up closing more accounts than you're opening. So, I'm talking about understanding how the law works and the whole legal process. And it's no harm doing a diploma in credit management, to understand the fundamentals of contract law. You're not going to be lawyers, you're not going to have all the answers. You might have a few questions, which is important. Then I know this is kind of uh, uh, not a fit for collections, just because it was only two modules, there was nowhere else to put it. So credit risk assessment. So we're going to do a whole module and a couple of ancillary modules on this whole area. So how do you make a decision at the start who we're going to do business with, how much we're going to do business with them? So that is, to me, a very important part of the credit control function, and one thing that we will be covering off. So how do we risk assess a customer? How do we make a decision? Yeah, these guys are good for 50 grand. These guys are good for 400,000. These guys are good for a million. Or these guys aren't. So there is a formula. There is a way to. Is it foolproof? Of course it isn't. Is it 100%? Nothing is 100%. Will it give you a basic guideline and a framework to work from? Yes, it will. And so we want to explain that. And within that is reading a set of accounts as well. And so it's top line. We're not going to show you how to create an account because we know you don't want to be an accountant. What we do need to be able to do is to be able to look at a set of accounts and go, these are the key numbers that we look for. How well run is the business? How well managed is the business? How solvent is the business? How profitable is the business? And if you can answer those questions, you're ahead of most other people. And I want to give you the benefit of my knowledge within the whole credit risk assessment and scoring models and all that kind of stuff. And maybe because I'm doing collections and I love this stuff, that's how it fits into collections. So that is credit risk assessment. Negotiating skills. So I said to you earlier, there's times when we have to negotiate, and there's times when we don't. Um, and it's knowing the difference between the two. When do we have to negotiate? Sometimes we have to negotiate, particularly if a customer is in the category where we call they can't pay. So, look, I've no money. You know, times are tough, things are hard. I know I owe you 50 grand. Sad fact is, haven't got it. All right. And then we do come across that from time to time. And maybe people aren't as honest as I am in telling you that they haven't got the money. Um, they'll they'll tell you in a roundabout way. They might say, well, look, I'm waiting to get paid from a supplier. That's telling me they don't have the money. Oh, or send me in a copy invoice. That's a way of delaying payment without admitting to anything. So there's lots of tricks that customers are using in order to delay tactics that we're going to be wide awake to now at this stage. And there are times when we do have to sit down and negotiate with them and think, okay, well, look, you haven't got 50 grand right now. Fine. Now, the two things from a credit control perspective, and this is something that, you know, to that if somebody has no money and they've said, look, I owe you 50 grand, haven't got it, times are tough, things are hard, haven't got 50 grand, can't pay you. A lot of credit controllers, their immediate reaction is to put that customer on stop supply and to take action to get the money. And that is a lot of credit controllers' immediate reaction. It's not mine. And hopefully, after doing this course, it will not be yours. Because what I have to do is I have to find a way. I have to find a way because they owe us 50 grand. We have to get 50 grand. Now, if they've admitted they haven't got it today, that's fine. Um, they'll have to pay it at some stage. So part of the negotiation process is to negotiate a payment plan, maybe with them, or phased payments or something. And so we negotiate, but it's not just to negotiate, it's to get the best possible deal, okay? And to get paid in the quickest possible time. And here is the thing. It's not just about the 50 grand that's outstanding, because okay, that's the important part right now. There's 50 grand outstanding. We have to negotiate a payment plan for that. In order to keep the customer engaging with you, you also have to find a way where you can supply them in the meantime. Now, that's where it gets complicated. And how you do that is you make sure that if they owe you 50 grand and they haven't got 50 grand, that's fine. So now what you have to do is you have to find a way to continue to do business with them where the balance never goes above 50,000. So if you pay me 20 grand today, I let an order go to you next week for 10 grand. Yeah. So now we're 50, you pay 20 down to 30. I let an order go to you next week for 10. Now I'm down to 40. I've still gone from 50 to 40. I've made a 10 grand sale and you're talking to me. Yeah. And next month, hopefully, it'll go down to 20 and back up to 30. But if I do that over 5 months, the 50 grand is cleared and I'm still doing business with them. Can you see that? Whereas if I put them on stop supply, they will go across the road, get credit from my competitor, and whatever few bob I ever had a chance to get, I am now at the bottom of their priority list because that brat wouldn't supply me. These people are supplying me. I'm going to look after them, and they can go to hell. Yeah. So negotiating skills are important in credit. And again, it's about looking at time frames, and that's something that I think is kind of unique. The one thing dealing with sales and queries and all that kind of stuff that I want to make you aware of that and I want to do this today because I want you starting on this on Monday before you get the notes. It's this. So many credit controls. So say, for example, we're now on the 21st of February. So so our January accounts, if they're due at the end of February, so January accounts aren't due, February accounts aren't due till next month. So I'm looking at December invoices. So really what I want to make sure is that all my December invoices should be paid now and we need to get those collected. So that's fine. So say for example a customer says to me, oh yeah, I have an invoice here dated the 1st of December and you charged me 15 quid and you should have charged me 10. And I have a query and I'm looking for a credit note. Now dealing with the credit is important. Getting the credit note out is important because you're not going to get paid unless you do. So you need to do that. The one thing that I want to make you aware of is that it's not just doing the credit note for the invoice for the 1st of December. Because if you do that, you're creating a problem for yourself. So what you need to do is you need to say, okay, so we had a problem with pricing on the 1st of December where we charged them 15 and they say it should be 10. Now, is it 10? Is it 15? We get that clarified. If it is 10, that's fair enough. So there is that invoice on the 1st of December. There are all the invoices that we processed between the 1st of December and the 21st of February. Because chances are, if we charge them the wrong price then, we'll probably have charged them the wrong price since. So here's a whole pile of hidden queries that haven't been raised that you need to deal with, or else you're going to create a problem for yourself next month and the month after that. Yeah. And then there's from today onwards. So if they ordered stuff today, what will they be charged? 15. So if they order stuff today, they're still going to be charged 15. So when I get to the end of March looking for February payment, they're going to look for a credit note. Blah, blah, blah. So there's the three time frames for queries. the past, the interim, and the future. And the same for negotiations of a payment plan. There is the amount outstanding, and then there's the ongoing business after that. So it does make it difficult. Uh, and it also means I'm working with sales. We're going to work with this guy. We're going to work through this problem. Now, again, that'll work 80% of the time. And there's 20% where, yeah, I'm going to sue you. You're not talking to me. You're not agreeing with me. You're not whatever. And my first priority is to get the money. And I'm not going to be soft just because I'm nice. Don't confuse, nice with being soft. I'm not. And then I'm not sure. It's the final module, and maybe it should be the first. Um, Stress management. The one most, and look, I said the customers are important. I have said getting payment is important. I'm saying growing your career is important. Dealing with sales is important. Negotiating is important. The most important thing of all is you. You are the most important thing. And in your head. So, I hear people, so, stress and all this, and stress is, you know is an epidemic right now. And part of what I want to do in this module is to help you not to fall into that cycle. Because stress is all internal, by the way. I've heard, oh, that guy causes me stress. No, he doesn't. That guy is that guy. Let him be whatever he wants to be. That's fine. Stress is caused by how you react to what that guy is doing. So, it's always within your own control. And part of what this module about resilience is giving you the resilience to be the captain of your own ship. You decide how you're going to react to a situation. Sometimes it doesn't feel like a reaction, and it is. And by breaking it down and showing you the component parts, this module is to build you up from a personal perspective that you are able for anything. Yeah. And in terms of feeling stress and overwhelm and all that kind of stuff, no, we have no time for that. We have no time. Look, we have a job to do. Yes, it's a difficult job. Can we do everything? No, we can't. Can we do the most important things? Yes, we can. If we have a target, yes, we'll hit our target. Now, depending on the resources available and everything else, there are things that just aren't going to get done. Boo-hoo. There's people in higher positions earning far more money than you are, and that's their problem. So we'll give you an overview on that. So they are the modules that we're going to cover, and I hope I've given you a flavor of each that you're looking forward to it. As I say, you'll get the notes in written form and in audio form, so you'll have to listen to me, I'm afraid, if you want to listen to those. And I go through the notes and explain everything to you. And look, we're here. So again, what I'll do, I'll stop recording here. Again, bump, stop recording.